We are less than 2 full days away from the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs. It is anyone's ball game on today's edition of Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Locked On NHL. I am Nick Zararis, the host of Locked On Oilers and the host of Locked On NHL. On Thursdays, that is Hunter Hodies, one of the co-hosts of Locked On Penguins and my fellow co-host. We want to thank everyone that is making Locked On NHL their first listen of the day. Locked On NHL, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, today's show, very straightforward, folks. We're going to talk about the 8 playoff series in the first round. We are going to do them in a snake draft order. Hunter and I are going to compile 2 teams of 4 and see who ends up with the better collection of series. And real quick, before we get to today's show, the Artemi Panarin news, it sucks. You as a hockey fan, us as hockey fans, it gets to a certain point of just how much more of this can we tolerate before we have to accept something as wrong? I did want to address that real quick before we started our show. It would have been wrong if we didn't. All right, Hunter, my friend, being that I sprung this concept on you before we started the show 5 minutes ago, I will give you the courtesy of the first selection. What series are you most excited about?
So this is the first round. There's definitely some duds in here, but the one I am most excited about right now, to me, give me the Battle of Florida. I'm going to take that first in this draft. I was going between that, Nick, and Dallas, Colorado, just because of the Ranston storyline, but I'm a bit nervous for Dallas because no Haskin right now. And then if you read the reports last night, Nick, Jason Robertson left the game with a brace on his knee. And if he is out for any portion of that series, obviously they're going to be up a creek going up against Colorado with the high-end talent the Avs have. And Gabe Landeskog is probably going to be coming back at some point in that series. But the Battle of Florida once again. And at first, you saw this dominated by Tampa, right? This was a big brother, little brother thing. Last year, big brother hit a nice growth spurt. And now you have 2 brothers that are the same height looking at each other like, okay, what are we going to do? Because this series, I think, is going to be really close. But it also depends on if Florida can be healthy. Matthew Tkachuk, that's the big one. I don't think a lot of
hasn't played since the Four Nations. It's been 2.5, 3 months.
100%. I don't think a lot of people know if he's going to be fully back for this entire series. I mean, we all know he's working to try and come back for the whole series, but it's still a bit of an unknown right now. Nick, they got to get Ekblad back as well, and that's going to be a big boost once he is back in the playoffs, especially on the right side of their defense. But this is going to be 2 teams full of rats going at it, and I can't wait. I really can't. I mean, Tampa Bay, they have kind of a super line if they want to with Kucherov, Gensel, and Braden Point. But I also liked that they addressed some of their weaknesses during the trade deadline as well. Defensively, they're playing well, and Andrei Vasilevsky is having one of the best seasons of his career. The goaltending matchup, I think, in this series is going to be really good. Seeing Vasilevsky go against Bobrovsky, who has been outstanding for the Panthers these last couple of years with how deep they have gone in the playoffs. But, the Panthers also added Brad Marchand around the trade deadline. He is back healthy now, pairing him up with Sam Bennett, 2 big rats going up against Kucherov, Brandon Hagel, Braden Point. There's so many great storylines for this series, my friend, and I'm excited to see how this plays out. I think this series is going the distance.
So I'll be quick and I'll be surmised because you hit like the storylines. The thing that jumped out to me in doing my research, doing my prep, is that Florida is still by and large a volume offense team. They have a very low shooting percentage. They're very much a bang the puck down low, high to low, point shots, redirects, deflections. They're very much of that school, where Tampa Bay is a lot more choosy. They're going to work the puck around the perimeter. They're going to look for that grade A, that great scoring chance, and they're going to be a bit more selective. So I'll be very curious to see how those 2 philosophies going up against each other interact. And I do think there is something to be said for the fact that Florida's played to the Stanley Cup final 2 years in a row, whereas Tampa Bay went out early last year, went out early-ish 2 years ago. And I do think being fresh will make a difference. And I do ultimately think I am going to pick Tampa Bay to win this series based on the fact that they're going to be fresher, less miles on the odometer. And I trust their guys just a smidge more. Vasilevsky in a big game, Hedman in a big game. I mean, Kucherov and Point, something like 100 points between the two of them. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Kucherov's over a point and a quarter per game in the playoffs for his career since they won the Stanley Cup. So I will take Tampa Bay in 7 games, but Florida
I will also
absolutely
go Tampa
capable.
in 7, but I can easily see the swing in the other direction if Tkachuk is fully healthy for this series and the Panthers are rolling, because they just haven't been healthy down the stretch here.
No.
They've had a lot of guys out to injury. Obviously, the Aaron Ekblad situation is what it is. But if they can get these guys back, they will have a really good shot to do this. But right now, I will take Tampa Bay in a coin flip 7-game series, because that's what this is, man.
Yeah.
This is a coin flip.
All right, we got to try and be quicker because we do have to get through 7 more of these. First pick for me, it has to be Colorado, Dallas. I know Dallas is ice cold right now. The Robertson injury, it's indeterminate at what point in the first round Miro Heiskanen is going to be available to them. I think on paper, I would say that Dallas is a deeper lineup dependent on when Robertson is able to come back. I think they have probably the best forward group on paper of anyone in the postseason. I think the fact that the Stars penalty kill has been atrocious over the last week and a half to 2 weeks has been a driving force in why they've struggled. I mean, they were 10 for 19 on the kill over the last 2-3 weeks. I mean, we're talking about a 50% penalty kill. That's not going to hack it. They're still shooting reasonably well. And then my big question for Colorado, and one reason why I'm a little skittish on them, just a lot of turnover. You know, I was watching the Oilers and the Sharks last night, and they were talking about it. The Avalanche have used the second most players of any team in the NHL, and that's generally pretty commiserate with a difficult season. But for Colorado, it's been by and large a product of them retooling on the fly. You think about the additions they made in season where you added Jack Jury, a Marty Natchez, a Charlie Coyle, a Brock Nelson, all of those moves in the idea of we're close, we can set this up for success. And I think Colorado has been in a better run of form as of late, and I would lean in that direction, but I'm curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think with Colorado, though, with this series, I'm going to take the Avs, mainly because, Nick, it's so hard to bet against their big guns in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
When Makar and McKinnon take games over, good luck stopping them. And I'm not going to bet against those two guys. Like, I've done it before. I've gotten burned. I'm not going to do it this time. And they're going to probably get their captain back. Like, he played well in the AHL. He got the goal. He was so excited about it. He's going to return at some point in this series, I think. It may not be game 1, but I think it's going to be at some point, and that's going to give them such a jolt in their lineup. So that's kind of where it starts and ends for me with this series. I would be more inclined to pick Dallas if Heiskanen was healthy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like he's going to be playing in this series, at least when you look at the reports from Elliot Friedman and some other insiders out there. And then with Jason Robertson, that also just scares me a little bit too. If those two were healthy, Nick, I think I might take Dallas.
Yes,
I
agree with you.
But
I agree with you.
I can't bet against Makar and McKinnon right now. So I am going to take the Avs, but I will take them. I will take them in 7, though. I think Dallas is going to give them a really good fight.
The one caveat addendum I do want to add real quick for both teams. Number one, Mackenzie Blackwood's never played in an NHL playoff game before. That's a storyline to monitor, how Colorado handles their goaltending. And then number 2, the right side of Dallas's defense is just awful. Just Matt Dumba, Lyubushkin,
Cody Ceci, brother.
Cody Ceci. It's just leaky. It's not very mobile. It's not great in its own end. They need Heiskanen to come back. I mean, Harley's averaging 25-30 a night in the regular season. That with no Heiskanen, he's probably going to be pushing 28, 29. It's going to be circa Duncan Keith 2015 if Harley is really going to be the driving force. We're going to take our first break on today's edition of Locked On NHL, and when we come back, we will keep making our way through our snake draft, and we promise we will make this not a 45-minute episode. Be right back. The NBA playoffs are already underway. The NHL playoffs start on Saturday, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel mixed betting, so fun and exciting. Whether it's picking my favorite team, which I would never do, betting on my own team, that's just setting myself up for failure. Or what I like to do, riding on player props. From three-pointers, steals, assists, goals, shots on goals, saves, FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game already starts, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for your chance to win big. Do not miss out on all of the playoff action. Head on over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out with Hunter and I on this Thursday edition of Locked On NHL as we are making our way through the first round playoff series. Next up for me, this is a vibes one. You got to give me the Battle of Ontario. Like, on paper, this is not a great matchup. I think the Leafs are clearly a better team. But you let the Senators hang around in the playoffs and weird things happen. I mean, they got the Penguins to a Game 7 overtime in 2017 with Erik Karlsson on one leg and 30-something-year-old Craig Anderson playing out of his mind in net. I think this is as good an opportunity as the Leafs are going to have to set themselves up for a successful playoff run. The Leafs' depth is concerningly bad. I think if you looked at their defense on daily faceoff right now, you would probably rub your eyes and squint like 5 or 6 times trying to think about how you're going to feel confident about that group. The knee-jerk reaction is Toronto needs to win this series in like 5 or 6 games because of the talent gap. But weird things happen when you let the Senators hang around.
I'm going to take the Leafs to win it, but do I feel confident about it, Nick?
No,
absolutely not, especially what we've seen with the Leafs during the Core 4 era. The Leafs are the better team. They have 4 strong lines. They're good defensively. I don't know if they have the better goalie. I think when healthy, Linus Ullmark is obviously one of the best goaltenders in the world, but I feel like they're going to have just enough offense to get by Ottawa. But the vibes are going to be through the roof. Both fan bases are going to nuke each other on social media. Please, I am so hyped for that series. For me, though, with my next pick, I'm kind of going back and forth because honestly, a lot of these series don't really, get me too amped. But I will take the Wild Golden Knight series for me, Nick. And a lot of it is due to Vegas, but I am excited to see Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek in the playoffs once again. You can tell ever since they've come back, they have been a much better team. And I think they're going to give Vegas a fight. I just don't think they're going to win this series because for me, man, when you go up against Jack Eichel in a 7-game series, it's like going up against a boa constrictor because he will just suffocate the life out of you in the 7-game series. And I think that's exactly what Jack Eichel is going to do. He is one of the best players in the league for a reason, great two-way player, and he's going to make it very hard on Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek to drive offense in this one. Mark Stone, when he's healthy, we all know how he is a complete psychopath in the playoffs. They have Pietrangelo healthy. They have Theodore healthy. Bruce Cassidy is one of the 5 best coaches in the league. I'm excited to see how the chess match goes with these 2 coaches, but I will take Vegas to win this series in 5. I think it could go 6, but I'm going to go in 5 right now. But I'm taking that series because I still think it's going to be fun to watch.
So my notes, I started putting together my notes earlier in the week, and when I laid out the metrics for these 2 teams, this was the starkest contrast. The Golden Knights are better by every single underlying metric except for high danger chances against, which it's less than 1 hold high danger chance against. I think the talent disparity is very clear. The Wild are a very fun team. They've had some exhilarating moments over the last few weeks. I think about that Eriksson Ek rooster trick. I think about the last game they played where they got Fleury in overtime just so he could play one more time. I think the only path for Minnesota in this series is if you got some really super goaltending. If you get some great goaltending to steal you a game you have no business winning, you make Vegas a little bit uncomfortable. I think that's your path. I think the high-end talent disparity is very real. I think the Wild have absolutely overrun Brock Faber. He's just playing too much. If you go and look, his underlying metrics are underwater this year because he's playing 27 minutes a night as a
half the game, man.
He's playing almost half the game as a 22-year-old. And a lot of that was because of injury. They've been out. Guys have been out for that lineup. They played their first healthy lineup since November, the last game of the regular season. So I think Minnesota is probably a little better than their underlying metrics. But you look at this Vegas lineup, and you were mentioning, I think Eichel was the best player on Team USA in the 4 Nations face-off. This is easily the best defense he's ever played in his career this year. I mean, that's not saying a lot. He's never been great defensively, but this is a good defensive year. Mark Stone is a proven playoff performer, one of the leading goal scorers over the last 3 playoffs combined, everyone in the NHL. You mentioned Bruce Cassidy, who I do agree with you. I do think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the entire league. And then tying this back to the Tampa Bay and Florida conversation as well, Vegas going on another meaningful run here can set them up to be in that conversation for team of the decade. Because I think right now you're looking at Tampa Bay, you're looking at Florida, and then the argument for that third team between Colorado and Vegas. I think whichever one of those teams has the great run in this cohort this year, I think that team can put themselves in that conversation.
I think that's super fair. I mean, Vegas, the only reason why they lost early last year was because they played an amazing Dallas team. And that was also, I think, the best series of the first round, in my opinion. That was a ton of fun to watch. So, yeah, I agree. I think if Vegas goes on another deep run here, and I think they will, I think they are one of the two best teams in the Western Conference. I think they can definitely catapult into that category. Nick, what's your next team or series, excuse me?
So I want to go. I feel like I have to go Oilers Kings because that is the next best series on paper, even though I'm not really enthusiastic about it, because I was talking about this with Eddie Garcia of Locked On Kings the other day when we did our crossover show that's going to air tomorrow on the Oilers and Kings feeds. I'm worried this year, man. The entire premise of the Oilers right now is hypothetical. You know, the what if man, the Justin Herbert joke on Twitter. That's kind of what the Oilers are right now.
They gotta get healthy.
If everyone's healthy and if McDavid is great and if Draisaitl is great, I have no question about Connor or Leon. That's not the question. We saw Leon beat the Kings by himself on one leg 3 years ago. On a sprained ankle, he played the entire series and led the first round in goals. I don't have any questions about Connor or Leon. Everything else I have questions about. Who's playing, first of all? Are we going to see Evander Kane and Trent Frederick? Is Jake Wallman going to play? Hyman will play. They were just holding him out of the last two games dealing with the nagging injury. Is Jeff Skinner going to stay in the playoff lineup? What about Kasperi Kapanen? What about Max Jones? What about Matthias Janmark? The Oilers have a million lineup decisions to make, and it's entirely hypothetical because Evander Kane hasn't played hockey since last June. Trent Frederick has played 7 minutes of hockey since the end of February. And there's no way to know how any of these pieces are going to fit together. And you contrast that with the Kings, who are one of the best defensive teams in the NHL, who have a goalie in Darcy Kemper, who's a reasonable chance to be one of the 3 finalists for the Vezina Trophy. And you add the fact the Kings are the best home team in the entire NHL this year, and the Kings have home ice advantage. On paper, the Oilers are a better team, but all of the environmental and circumstantial factors would lead me to believe the Kings are going to win this series. I won't be picking the Kings because the Oilers just are a better team, but everything is telling me this is the year the Kings finally beat the Oilers.
I will take the Oilers in 7 just because I have seen how this has played out, and I think it's going to play out the exact same way. Just because
Word to Shaq, I'm very familiar with your game. You can't trick me.
100%. McDavid and Draisaitl are the 2 best players in this series. But the thing is, the Kings are going to try to muck it up. They've been trying to do that, Nick, these last 3 years. They've done it a little bit, but obviously not enough to win these series. They've come close to shutting them down at times, but you can only do that for so long until Leon and Connor have their moments, and then they just take the series over. I expect the Kings to play well defensively, but I still think Connor and Leon once again are going to have their moments. Zach Hyman, I call him kind of the merchant just because he hangs around the net front, gets a lot of tap-in goals. Very good at what he does, by the way. But I think he's going to have a good series. Ekholm is the one injury that gives me a little bit of pause when picking the Oilers just because he is by far the Oilers' best defensive defenseman, in my opinion. But if the Oilers' power play clicks, Connor and Leon do their thing, and they at least just get average goaltending, that's really all they need, they will win this series. I think they will do just enough to win it. But I think when you look at some of the other series in years past between these two teams, I think this one is going to be the closest one yet. And I know, Nick, we've seen some 7-gamers between these two teams. I still think this is going to be the closest one yet. I will take the Oilers, though, because they have 2 of the best players on the planet. Next up for me, though, I am going to take the Blues-Jet series. The Winnipeg Whiteout returns this weekend. One of my favorite parts about playoff hockey. The atmosphere in Winnipeg is going to be sensational. This is one of the best Jets teams of our lifetime, and they need to prove it. They need to go out there and send a message saying that this year is different compared to some of these other years where they have gone out in really ugly fashion. We all saw what happened last year. Everyone was so hyped for the Winnipeg Whiteout. They play the Avalanche, Nick, and then Makar and McKinnon just say, hey, sorry, we're going to go God mode and we're going to kick your guys' asses. And that's exactly what happened throughout that entire series. Connor Hellebuyck was turned into a pumpkin. I want to see Hellebuyck play the way he did in the Four Nations in the playoffs here. It is time for him to step up when he is called upon and win this series for the Jets. I will take the Jets in 6 games, but the Blues are not going to make it easy on them. Robert Thomas, he was a bit banged up to end the season. He'll be healthy. Jim Montgomery has that team humming in the defensive zone. They are playing some lights out hockey to end this season. Pavel Buchnevich has played well in the playoffs before. We've seen what Jordan Binnington can do in the playoffs, my friend. But when it comes down to it, Winnipeg is healthy here and Connor Hellebuyck shows up, I will take the Jets in 6 games.
So I have a few stats for you. Number 1, Connor Hellebuyck career in the playoffs, 18-27, win-loss, I'm not really putting on him. 910 save, 2.85 goals against average, only 2.2 goals saved above expected. So we're talking about more than 40 career playoff games and barely above average goaltending.
Gotta be better.
If the Jets are going to make this happen, and I will make a comparison here to the Rangers in a second, but when your best player is your goalie's ability to impact the game, it's a lot easier for them to impact the game negatively than it is positively. You have seen the 2 years the Rangers went to the conference final. Shesterkin was their best player, and that's the recipe here for the Jets. They're going to need Connor Hellebuyck to be their best player. And then real quick, they dodged a bullet, Dylan Sandberg not actually being hurt earlier in the week. He's been their second best defenseman behind Josh Morrissey. He's got the 4th highest goals above replacement of any defenseman in the entire NHL. And I think the Jets have a great opportunity in front of them.
The only injury does scare me a little bit, though.
Yes.
He's week to week with the foot injury. They got to get him back.
He is their best transition forward.
Yes.
And it's part of what's made him such a unique player over the years is the fact he fills in space so well and he's got such good vision for the ice. He really has a great sense of where he is at all times. Real quick, I will take the Jets. I will take the Jets in 5 games. I think the Blues' only real path here is Robert Thomas to continue going nuclear. Over the last month, Robert Thomas has 40 points in 26 games. He's been incredible since coming back from the Four Nations face-off. I think there's a world where the Blues can make this a little hairy, but I think the Jets are a deeper lineup. I think they're high-end talent, especially when you get to Josh Morrissey and Scheifele. I think they're right there with what St. Louis can offer. And then they have the depth. You know, the Jets can roll out a 4th line with like Morgan Barron or Mason Appleton, and that's just better than what the Blues have at their disposal. We're going to take our second and final break, and then we will conclude with some, I don't want to say stinkers, but some interesting playoff series right after this. Did you know you can use your Fire TV like an Xbox and turn any TV into a gaming and entertainment hub with a Fire TV Stick 4K device? No console required. Grab a paired controller, subscribe, or sign into an existing Xbox Live Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles. You guys know how much I play NCAA 25, even to this day. You know I am still a Call of Duty guy at heart, and they are all available on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1.5 million movies and different TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so many more. And you can play high-quality Xbox games at the fraction of the cost of a console. Or if you travel a lot, a Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable, and it's easier to travel with than taking your console with you. Head on over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. Thank you to everyone who is hanging out with Hunter and I on this Thursday edition of Locked On NHL as we are making our way through this snake draft of first round series. Go ahead, my friend. You go back to back.
So I've been going back and forth on some of these stinkers, I guess. You may think I'm a bit weird here. I will take the Washington-Montreal series.
Oh, that's reasonable.
Let me tell you why, Nick. Let me tell you why. Montreal plays a very fun but chaotic style. It is all gas, no brakes, all offense, very little defense. I was watching them play that game last night against Carolina, a very shorthanded Carolina team for obvious reasons. They don't want any of their star players to get hurt before their series against New Jersey, which I know you will probably be picking that series up next. And watching them defend was something else. It's a time in the defensive zone when you watch the Canadians play and you watch how they try and defend when a team comes in, whether it's, along the boards, off the rush. It is very tough watching them defend. However, they have a nothing to lose mentality going into the playoffs. A lot of people didn't expect them to be here. Nick, you and I, when we did our season preview, we thought they would be in the mix, but we didn't have them making the playoffs this year. Now that they're back in, they're going to play loose and they're going to play fun. They have nothing to lose. They have exceeded expectations this year. And when you go up against a team like that, especially when you are the number one team in the Eastern Conference, sometimes some unpredictable things can happen. However, I will take the Capitals to win this series. I will take them to win it in 6 games. But the Canadians are going to give the Capitals a bigger fight than some people think. I think Lane Hutson's going to have some really dazzling moments in this series. I think Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield are going to be really good as well. But when it comes down to it, I will take the Capitals goaltending, which has been very good throughout the year. And I will take their shooting percentage because they've been riding those two metrics, Nick, all year. I mean, they've had great goaltending, great shooting percentage. Alex Ovechkin's back in the playoffs once again. And I think this is his last best shot at winning a second Stanley Cup before he probably retires after next season because he has 1 year left on his contract. But I will take that series and I will take Washington to win in 6 hard-fought games. I think it's going to be a more fun series than some people think.
So the way this series becomes fun is if Montreal makes Washington sweat. That's the path to this series being exciting, chaotic, and making it a little bit better than it is on paper. As you said, the Canadians play no defense to speak of. Most of their defense, you think about Matheson, you think about Lane Hutson, Caden Gooley, who had a couple goals last night for them against Carolina. Those are all mobile, offensively inclined defensemen. I am ecstatic that Mike Matheson is returning to playoff hockey. The human zone entry, the one-man defenseman zone entry. One of the great treats in life is watching Matheson build up a head of steam in the neutral zone and try and lead the rush by himself. I am ecstatic that we're going to hear that crowd. I know we were talking before about the Winnipeg crowd, which is probably the loudest in the NHL. Bell Center's got the biggest capacity. It is going to be loud in there. I mean, last night on TV, it was loud. I can't even fathom how loud it actually was in the building. I agree with you, though. I think Washington wins this series in 6 games. I will be curious to see how Washington's goaltending tandem handles playoff hockey. Charlie Lindgren got roughed up last year in the playoffs against the Rangers. Logan Thompson has had a great regular season, but does not have extensive playoff experience. Granted, Samuel Montembeault does not either. But with that said, the last series we have to discuss is the Devils and the Hurricanes. So if Jack Hughes was playing, I would be a lot more excited about this. If Dougie Hamilton was definitely playing, I'd be a lot more excited about this. These teams are, I don't want to say they're mirror images of each other, but the Devils are where the Hurricanes were, let's say 4 or 5 years ago. Young, exciting core, relatively cost control. You see the vision, you see why people are excited. But with no Jack Hughes, I think the Devils are going to be extremely limited. I think these teams, being very different stylistically, is going to play into Carolina's hands. And the Devils are better defensively than they were under Lindy Ruff. I'll give Sheldon Keefe a lot of credit for that. They are better defensively. But Carolina's style, we see it. It works very well in the first round when they outgun the team they're playing. We have seen them do this to the Islanders. We have seen them do this to a few different teams over the last handful of seasons. They are well positioned to just grind the Devils into a pulp. And that's what I expect to happen here. You saw it. And look, I know 2 years ago, Timo Meier was hurt. I know the Devils were missing guys when they played in the second round and the Hurricanes got them out of there in 5 games. The only path for the Devils here is if Jacob Markstrom goes crazy. That's really all I got. And he's capable of doing that. He does go on a good goalie heater. He absolutely can steal a game or two. But talent-wise, Carolina's a lot deeper. I trust Carolina's coaching a little bit more. I trust Carolina's experience a little bit more. We've been waiting for the Devils to come on now for a few years. And the injuries have continued to be a real problem for them. And I just don't really see a path for the Devils here. I have them ranked dead last as far as who can win the Stanley Cup, because I just don't see a vision here. Like Ottawa, you could talk me into Olmark going crazy or Brady Tkachuk going crazy, but without Jack Hughes, who's, a top 20 player in the league, any team missing a player of this caliber, it's going to be hard for them to overcome that absence. That just doesn't happen.
They're going to have to really rely on Nico Hischier if they want to win this. They got to have Jesper Bratt go off as well. And as you mentioned, Jacob Markstrom needs to go on a heater. The Devils play well enough defensively. They have shown that time and time again under Sheldon Keefe this year. They've been able to clean up that part of their game. But I'm just scared where the offense is going to come from in a 7-game series. Again, they will really need Hischier and Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier to step up more than ever if they want to win this. Having Jack Hughes out, you said it, Nick. We all know how big of a blow it is. He's one of the best players in the league. He is elite in transition. He's good below the dots. His release is wicked. I would be very close to picking the Devils if Hughes was playing. Heck, I might pick the Devils if he was playing. But there's too many warning signs with the way the Devils have played down the stretch here. What do they do well? That's the thing. Like, sure, they're a bit better defensively. That's good. Their penalty kill is pretty solid. But other than that, I just don't really know what they do well to beat this Carolina team over a 7-game series. The Hurricanes are very good defensively, especially in the first round of the playoffs every year. It's after that where once you get them in a 7-game series, when you go up against a better coach team, their system kind of goes down a little bit. So I will take Carolina to win this in 6 just because I'm really concerned about where the Devils are right now. Carolina at home, especially, Nick, with the home ice advantage, that is a big deal as well. We've talked about some of the buildings here, the Bell Center, with Winnipeg, the whiteout, all that. Vegas obviously has a good home ice advantage. But another thing is Carolina plays very well at home to start the playoffs. That is a very electric atmosphere in Raleigh, and I think that's also going to play a part. I think Carolina's high-end talent is going to do enough to win this series. I think Aho is going to play well enough. I think Stankoven is going to have a really nice series here for Carolina. I also think Seth Jarvis and some of their kids, Jackson Blake, Scott Morrow, I think they're also going to play well for Carolina. So I think the Hurricanes are going to frustrate the Devils a lot in this series, and I will take them to win, setting up a crazy round 2 between Carolina and Washington, because I think that series will feed families if we get it. But I will take Carolina in 6 games because I'm too concerned with where the Devils are right now, man. They haven't played that well down the stretch.
And the one last thing I did want to shout out, the Devils' power play is a discernible advantage here because the Hurricanes' kill isn't great. It's up there.
Usually it is because they're one of the few teams that can run a power kill. The Devils actually can as well. I will say that the Devils have one of the best penalty kills in the league.
So that's one area where I do think the Devils can kind of close the 5-on-5 gap, because very similarly to what I said about the Vegas-Minnesota series, when you look at the metrics, it is Carolina across the board. Carolina's played better hockey over the last month. Not by much, the win-loss records are pretty similar, but that's an advantage here where, yes, the Carolina penalty kill is okay. It's pretty good. But the Devils' power play is one of the best in the league, and that's an opportunity there. And
the two teams have the 2 best penalty kills in the league this year, so that's going to be a fun chess match.
Yes, and it's really interesting because you think about the Devils without Jack Hughes and what it does to their power play, especially no Dougie Hamilton to run the point either, and they found a way to make do. You think about the season.
He returned last night, so he's back.
But I'm saying for the most of the season, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. They've had power play success in spite of the fact that Dougie Hamilton and Jack Hughes have missed extensive time. So that tells you something's working there between Hischier, Bratt, Timo Meier. Something is working there. And I am going to take the Hurricanes in 5 games. I just don't think the Devils are well situated for playoff hockey based on their style, based on the depth they have. And I don't think that's really an indictment of them. I just think Carolina's a better hockey team. They're just a better team. And when we're picking these, you're going to pick the better team more often than not. But that will do it for today's edition of Locked On NHL. Thank you so much to everyone who made Locked On NHL their first listen of the day. Before we get out of here, please go check out the brand new Locked On NHL Game Night, where every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned, local analysis on a national scale. You can find NHL Game Night at Locked On NHL YouTube or podcast feeds. Hunter and I will see you guys next week, where we will have playoff series to digest and shorts from hosts of teams in the playoffs. Everybody, if your team is in the playoffs, best of luck. If not, there's always next year.